Namaskar, hello, and a very warm welcome to CIET NCERT's special live phone-in interactive program of this webinar series. This is Listening to Learn, यानी सुने और सीखें। मैं हूं तन्वी खुराना और इस वक्त आप हमें देख रहे हैं ई विद्या चैनल नंबर 9, 10, 11 और 12 पर। आज हम लेकर आए हैं आपके लिए एक बेहद खास टॉपिक। कैन वी लर्न फ्रॉम इंसेक्ट सोसाइटीज़? इंसेक्ट सोसाइटीज़ से आप क्या समझते हैं? इंसेक्ट सोसाइटीज़ क्या कॉम्प्लेक्स होती हैं, क्या सिंपल होती हैं, और इसमें कौन कौन से इंसेक्ट्स इंक्लूड होते हैं? हम बहुत कुछ जानेंगे आज के इस कार्यक्रम में। क्या हम कीट समाज से सीख सकते हैं? यह है हमारा आज का विषय। अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल है, देयर इज़ एनी क्वेरी दैट यू हैव रिगार्डिंग दिस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक, प्लीज़ रीच आउट टू अस. You can either give us a call on our number, that is 8800440559, or you are watching us on our YouTube channels as well, that is NCERT Official and NCERT PM eVidya channel number 9, 10, 11 and 12. So in the live chat box of these channels, you can write down your questions, your queries and share them with us. Let me tell you that we have entered into the 80th session of our webinar series Listening to Learn today, and this topic is extremely special for all of us. So in detail we'll be discussing this topic with our expert, and we'll be expecting your questions till 11 o'clock, and we'll try to take your questions up till the end of the program. अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल है, कोई सजेशन है, कोई ऐसी एडवाइस है या कोई टॉपिक है जो आप हमें सजेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, आप चाहते हैं कि हम अपने आने वाले कार्यक्रम में ले सके, तो आप वो भी कर सकते हैं. Please feel free to do that. Let me tell you that Department of Education in Science and Mathematics, NCERT, that is National Council of Educational Research and Training, brings you this special webinar series Listening to Learn. And आज हम जिस टॉपिक पे बात करेंगे वो आपके लिए बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग होगा, और अगर आपने हमारे पहले के कार्यक्रम नहीं देखे हैं 1 to 79, कोई भी ऐसा कार्यक्रम है जो आपसे छूट गया है, तो लेट मी टेल यू कि आप उन्हें हमारी एक स्पेशल वेबसाइट पर भी देख सकते हैं. लेट मी टेल यू ncert.nic.in/webinar_series.php. ये है हमारी वेबसाइट. आप इस पर क्लिक कीजिए और आप यहाँ पर जाकर हमारे पुराने कार्यक्रम देख भी सकते हैं. Let me please introduce you to the brain of this entire program, जिनकी वजह से ये कार्यक्रम पॉसिबल हो पाया, ये कार्यक्रम सक्सेसफुल है. और आइए मिलवाते हो हमारे डॉक्टर गगन गुप्ता से. सर
नमस्कार दोस्तों.
नमस्कार सर. सर आप प्लीज़ एक ये टॉपिक और हमारे आज के जो मेहमान हैं उन्हें हमारे दर्शकों से थोड़ा सा परिचय करवाइएगा.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, सादर प्रणाम. साथियों, आपको याद होगा अगस्त 2021, लगभग 3 साल पहले हमने ये प्रोग्राम शुरू किया था. काउंसिल ऑफ साइंटिफिक एंड इंडस्ट्रियल रिसर्च इंडिया, CSIR इंडिया, और नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट कमीशन इंडिया न्यू दिल्ली के कोलैबोरेशन में. और आज हम धीरे धीरे 80वें पड़ाव पर हैं. आज 80वें सेशन पर हैं. दोस्तों, हमने इस सीरीज़ में हेल्थ से जुड़े हुए विषयों, विमानन से जुड़े हुए विषयों, बैटरी से जुड़े हुए विषयों, न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी के जुड़े हुए विषयों, पारिस्थितिक विज्ञान और इकोलॉजिकल साइंसेस से जुड़े हुए विषयों, पर्यावरण से जुड़े हुए विषयों, अन्य विषयों पर बात की है. इस सारी सीरीज़ हमारे NCERT के वेबसाइट के इवेंट सेक्शन पर आपको मिल जाएंगे. मेरे साथी तन्वी ने अभी आपको लिंक का नाम भी बताया, जो कि अभी थोड़ी देर में फ्लैश होगा, और आप उस पर सारे इश्यूज़ देख सकते हैं. आपके जो सुझाव हैं दोस्तों हमें बहुत प्रेरित करते हैं, हमें प्रेरणा देते हैं कि हम आगे किस तरह के प्रोग्राम्स को और किस तरह के इश्यूज़ को इस सीरीज़ में उठाएं. आपके प्रोग्रामों ने से ही उठा हुआ आज का भी प्रोग्राम है, आपके सुझावों से ही निकला हुआ ये प्रोग्राम है. मुझे याद है कि आज से कुछ समय पहले मेरे एक साथी और कुछ दोस्तों ने लिखा कि आप कुछ सोसाइटीज़ के ऊपर बात कीजिए. तो आज उस कड़ी में आज का पहला सेशन है, जबकि बेंगलोर से इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस, भारतीय विज्ञान संस्थान से प्रोफेसर गदक्कर आज हमारे साथ हैं. थोड़ी देर में मैं आपकी मुलाकात कराऊंगा, और इस जो कि आज हमें सिखाएंगे, बताएंगे कि क्या हम कीटों की सोसाइटी से, कीटों के समाज से कुछ सीख सकते हैं, क्या सीख सकते हैं और कितना सीख सकते हैं और कैसे सीखें. इसी क्रम में एक दूसरा प्रोग्राम भी होगा अक्टूबर के महीने में, जबकि हम कोरल रीफ्स के बारे में सुनेंगे. कोरल रीफ्स के बारे में सीखेंगे, जो कि माना जाता है कि सबसे पहली संगठित सोसाइटी है, सबसे पहला संगठित समाज है। और आज के इस कार्यक्रम के लिए आगे बढ़ते हैं दोस्तों, और मैं अब आपकी मुलाकात कराता हूं। आज मेरे साथ हैं IISc इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस बेंगलोर से जुड़े हुए हैं प्रोफेसर राघवेंद्र गदक्कर। मेरे लिए बहुत आदरणीय हैं, बहुत पूजनीय हैं, बहुत सीनियर हैं, मेरे से बहुत वरिष्ठ हैं, और मैं उनके वाकई में शुक्रगुजार हूं। उन्होंने अपने इस सेहत की स्थिति के बावजूद भी हमारी संस्था के साथ इस प्रोग्राम को करने के लिए हामी भरी। हम शुक्रगुजार हैं इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस बेंगलोर, भारतीय विज्ञान संस्थान के भी, जिन्होंने कि अपना लगातार हमारे साथ संपर्क और कोलैबोरेशन बनाए रखा है। हम मानते हैं कि आगे आने वाले दिनों में भी इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस से हमारे पास हमें सहयोग मिलता रहेगा। कुछ दिनों बाद ही डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ केमिस्ट्री से प्रोफेसर उदय मैत्रा भी हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में होंगे। आज प्रोफेसर गदक्कर आज हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में नहीं आ पाए हैं उनके स्वास्थ्य के विषय में, लेकिन फिर भी मैं, और वो बेंगलोर से ही हमारे साथ जुड़ रहे हैं। प्रोफेसर गदक्कर, मैं आपका बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ, आपको बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ कि आपने अपने इस स्थिति के बावजूद भी हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए हामी भरी, और हमारे साथ आज पूरा देश आपको सुनना चाहता है कि इस कीट समाज से हम क्या क्या सीख सकते हैं। दोस्तों, प्रोफेसर गदक्कर डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, ईयर ऑफ साइंस चेयर प्रोफेसर at the Center for Ecological Sciences, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Professor Gadagkar has spent his entire scientific career attempting to understand how the societies of insects such as ants, bees and wasps function. Dr. Gadagkar and his many passionate students have focused on locally available but previously little known paper wasp, Propadalia margentina, for their empirical research. Using field and laboratory studies and employing observational, statistical, theoretical and modeling approaches, Professor Gadagkar and his students have discovered that this Indian paper wasp is ideally suited to understand the evolutionary forces that promote social life. Friends, wasp means tataya. In whole of the North India, the wasp we are aware of tataya, ये पीले रंग का जो हमारे घरों में अक्सर होता है। Professor Gadagkar's work has resulted in numerous articles and 3 books. Being passionately committed to teaching, science communication and outreach, Dr. Gadagkar regularly lectures and writes expository articles and books for the general public. He has received numerous prestigious awards from India and abroad, including the Shanti Sarup Bhatnagar Prize, the Homi Bhabha Fellowship and the Distinguished Animal Behaviorist Award for Lifetime Achievement from the Animal Behavior Society, United States of America. Professor Gadagkar has been elected to all the science academies in India, that is the Indian National Science Academy, INSA, New Delhi, the National Academy of Sciences, Allahabad, NASC, and the Indian Academy of Sciences, Bengaluru, IASC. He is also the fellow of the World Academy of the Science, the National Academy of Science, United States, the American Academy of Arts and Science, popularly known as AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the German National Science Academy, Podonia. Professor Gadagkar has also been conferred the Cross of the Order of Merit by the President of Germany. So, welcome once again Professor Gadagkar to this NCERT's program, Listening to Learn. Now it is all yours, sir, please.
Namaskar, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I am delighted to participate in this program and to have the opportunity to discuss what I and my students are passionately interested in. We are not only interested in trying to understand insect societies, but of course we would like to ask whether we as humans, the human society, can learn anything from these insect societies. As you will notice, the title of my lecture is a question. Science is full of questions. We have few answers, many questions, and we have to continuously do research to try and answer these questions. In fact, whenever we answer a question, 5 new questions arise. So that is how the process of science works. On this particular slide, you will see 3 beautiful examples of insect societies. All of these 3 are very dear to my heart because I and my students have been working on them. On the left side, you will see the queenless ponerine ant, Diacama silonens. And as you can see from the picture, this ant likes to decorate the entrance of its nest with feathers, as you can see there. In the middle, we have the Asian giant rock bee, the Apis dorsata, which we see all over India and all over Asia. On the right side is my absolute favorite. This is the Indian paper wasp, Rhopalidia marginata, which I and my students have worked for more than 40 years. But let me give you a little bit more detailed introduction to insect societies. On this slide, you will see a picture of another honeybee. This is also very special, very local. This is called the Asian dwarf honeybee, Apis florea. As you all probably know, I'm sure most of you know, that honeybees live in these large populous colonies with tens of thousands of individuals, one single queen, thousands of workers, and a few males called drones. You will see in this picture that in the middle of the picture is this large queen, and she's surrounded by a few faithful workers who are constantly taking care of her. They lick her, they clean her, they feed her. Apparently she is too busy to do all of these things herself because she's spending all her time in converting nutrition into eggs, and she can lay thousands of eggs per day. The workers work at home in the first half of their life, building the nest, repairing the nest, preparing food, feeding the larvae, guarding the nest, cleaning the nest, and so on. In the second half of their life, they fly outside the nest looking for food. They collect nectar and pollen. As you can see, this bee, it has actually got pollen on its hind legs, which are called pollen baskets, and they bring this all back to the nest and they perform a dance. In fact, the German zoologist Carl von Frisch discovered that honeybees have a language which is somewhat similar to our language, and using this language they are able to communicate what they have found to other bees so that they can recruit bees from home to bring back this food which they have discovered. Perhaps the most spectacular thing about the bees from the point of view of an evolutionary biologist like me is that when a honeybee stings you, it actually commits suicide. Its sting is armed with barbs pointing outwards. So once it inserts the sting into your skin, it cannot withdraw. When it tries to withdraw, its abdomen ruptures. It leaves behind the sting, the poison gland, and part of its intestine to fly away, only to die within a few minutes. However, this poison gland, which is now sticking to your body, will continue to pump venom into your body even up to 60 seconds after the bee has flown away. This, from an evolutionary point of view, is an act of suicide. How can Darwin's theory of natural selection explain such suicidal behavior? That is what has excited evolutionary biologists, and now we have a much clearer understanding of how evolution can favor such self-sacrificial or altruistic behaviors. What you see here on this picture are other examples of insect societies. These are ants. This particular ant is rather famous. These pictures are from the African species, but we have our own local species here. These ants will build nests by bringing leaves together, and as you can see on the left side, hundreds of ants are involved in coordinated effort to bring the edges of two leaves together. And you can see on the right side picture that actually they then stitch the edges of these leaves with silk fibers. Where do they get silk fibers? Adult insects cannot produce silk, but larval insects can produce silk. And what you see here is an adult ant has caught hold of a larva, and she is, if I can use human language, persuading this larva to donate some of her silk for the community good to build this nest. These are remarkable behaviors that these little tiny brained insects show, and it is impossible for us not to be curious, not to be full of admiration for these insects. But in addition to that, we must ask questions and try to answer these questions. What you see on this slide is another example of a very, very famous kind of insect society. These are termites. On the left side, you see a mound. This picture actually was taken from my bedroom window. This actually lives outside my house. And on the right side, you see an artist's conception of what the inside of the termite society looks like. In ants, bees, and wasps, we have queens but no kings. But in termites, we also have kings. In fact, this is the queen of the termite. This little fellow here is actually the king. He doesn't look very impressive, but he is the king, and he resides in this chamber with the queen, continuously donating sperm to her so that she can produce tens of thousands of offspring. That brings me to my most favorite kind of social insect. These are the wasps. Most wasps are not social, but the few wasps that are social can be called paper wasps. The reason for this is that they do not build their nest from wax as honeybees do, or from leaves as ants do, or from soil as termites do, but from paper. Now, where do they get paper from? They manufacture paper. How do they manufacture paper? In exactly the same way that we manufacture paper. They scrape cellulose fibers from plants, add various chemicals, make it into a fine pulp, spread it into a thin layer, and fan their wings and dry it. And it is paper. Actually, you can write on it. You see here a nest, with the entire nest is covered with a paper envelope, leaving only a small opening for the foraging wasp to fly in and out. Now, if you open this envelope, what you will see is what I like to call a multi-storied apartment complex. So you can see here there's ground floor, first, second, third. There are many layers, all made from paper, and this is where they rear their brood. If you turn it around, it looks like this. These are all the pupal caps from this adult wasp will come. These are interesting wasps, but I don't like them. I don't like them because they eat my wasps. And my wasps are these, which I study, which I'll show you a picture soon, which was on the first slide. And these are interesting. So, insect societies resemble human societies in many ways and are arguably more efficient than ours in some ways. I'll give you some justification for this statement. Insect societies sustainably harvest environmental resources, something we are struggling to do. They engineer their environments both inside and outside their nests. They practice agriculture. Ants have invented agriculture 50 million years ago, and they continue to do that today, and they solve many of the problems that our agriculture faces in completely different and interesting ways. Insect societies fight disease by the combination of individual immunity as well as social immunity. They organize social hunting parties. They navigate their environment using terrestrial and celestial cues, and they majorly influence the evolutionary trajectories of other organisms such as flowering plants. Given all of this, can we not learn something from them? This is an obvious question that we ask, but I want to inject here some words of caution. Yes, we would like to learn, but there are problems. In fact, there are two kinds of problems we have to overcome. First is a practical problem. The practical problem is that we find everything in nature, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this includes insect societies. We can find suitable examples in nature to justify anything we want. Monarchy, slavery, murder, matricide, fratricide, infanticide, siblicide, or if we so wish, democracy, socialism, egalitarianism, altruism, self-sacrifice, you name it, everything is present. So there is a philosophical problem. And this is the tendency to draw a conclusion about how things ought to be based on claims concerning what is natural, as if naturalness were itself a kind of authority. This is called the naturalistic fallacy. Just because something is present in nature, it doesn't mean we should do it. If we simply blindly copy nature, especially if we want to justify what we want to do. Suppose we want dictatorship. We can justify, oh, there is dictatorship in the nature, so why not? This is called the naturalistic fallacy. And we have to overcome these if we have to learn anything useful from insect societies. Now, can we hope, my question is, can we hope to learn from insect societies without committing the naturalistic fallacy, without choosing what we want and then saying that we can do it because it's already there in nature? So let me start with some easy examples and then go on to more difficult ones. The easy example, I'll give you two easy examples where we can easily learn from insect society. The first concerns ants. Now, if there are two ways to go from the nest of the ant to the food source, one is a long, one is a short path, we find that ants will quickly choose the short path. Question is, how do they do this? So, Jean-Louis Deneuberg, a professor of chemistry from the University of Brussels in Belgium, was interested in this question. So he set up laboratory experiments, a very simple one. You can see here there's a nest and here there is the foraging area where they get the food, and he connected these two with glass pipes such that there is a very long way to go there, there is a very short way to go there, and there are intermediate ways to go there. And he wanted to know how the ants get from the nest to the foraging area. Now you can see that at 4 minutes after the experiment, they were going in all kinds of places. But within 8 minutes, they all learned that the shortest path is the. How do they know this? They have small brains. Do they reason? Do they measure the different distances? Do they know that the short is better? None of this. As a chemist, he showed that there is a very simple way in which they achieve this. Ants are known to lay chemical pheromones as they walk. So when ants start walking, most of the ants start walking here, there will be more pheromone here and others will follow this. In other words, ants follow simple local rules. There are only two rules. Every ant should follow the pheromone trails of others and it should lay its own trail pheromone. This leads to what is called decentralized self-organization, which does not require any higher cognitive abilities. And this idea has been captured by computer scientists, and there is a whole branch of computer science called ant colony optimization. So computer scientists now learn from ants and develop new algorithms. And remarkably, these algorithms have been useful in many, many problems. For example, the traveling salesman problem, routing in communication networks, algorithm for data, graph coloring, machine scheduling, vehicle routing, sequence learning, and even machine learning. So these are straightforward examples where we can learn, and we have actually begun to learn. So study of watching a simple ant walk in a long trail has eventually led to millions of dollars in this kind of business. The second example I want to take is ant agriculture. The fungus farming by ants originated 50 million years ago. Ants practice agriculture, but unlike growing crops like us, they grow fungi. They cultivate fungi, they choose and manage microbial consortia beneficial for nutrient uptake and disease resistance. Now, again, can we learn these things? But these are simple examples. I want to say, can we do even better? Can we be bolder? I hope that we can find a middle ground so that we can learn from insect societies without suffering the ill effects of the so-called naturalistic fallacy. Here I want to take one example. So my prescription is as follows. Let us always decide what we wish to do on our own, unmindful of whether we find it in nature or not, whether animals do it or not. We don't care. We want to do this. Having made a decision, however, it is often useful to turn to nature to learn how to do it well. In other words, we don't decide first what we want to do and we justify it because it is there in nature, but we do what we want to do according to our requirement and learn from nature how to do it. Now, let me begin with some relatively non-controversial example, and then I will go to the controversial. So, I will move on now to human affairs. So, these are interesting things to look at. Can we learn something from them? I will illustrate this with a very fine study done by Professor Thomas Seeley of Cornell University. In fact, after studying honeybees for many years, he has written a book with the bold title, Honeybee Democracy. I will explain why he uses the term honeybee democracy. Now, honeybees, the ones he studies, Apis mellifera or Apis cerana in our case, live in cavities, such as this dead tree, for example. Now, honeybees, as you know, have a queen, lots of workers and drones. Now, how do the bees make a new colony? Or how do they change their colony? Sometimes they have to change and go elsewhere to make a new colony. So this is called house hunting. If, for example, this tree is cut down, these bees will have to go and find another cavity and move everybody there. That's why they have to do house hunting. When a daughter colony is produced, the mother queen leaves her nest with a fraction of the worker to build a new nest. Even then, house hunting is required. The mother queen and her entourage of workers first settle in a cluster nearby, and they may remain there from a few hours to a few days. Tom Seeley says, from this swarm, a few scout bees will fly out in search of suitable cavities to build a new nest. Multiple scouts will advertise different potential nesting sites that they have visited and found attractive. But all the bees have to eventually go to a single location. They can't go to all of them, and hopefully to the best site among those on offer. How do they accomplish this mean task? Thomas Seeley says, these homeless insects will do something truly amazing. They will hold a democratic debate to choose their new home. Let me explain this. So here, for example, is the place from where the bees are dancing. Now the scout bees are dancing and advertising these different directions, A, D, C, B, E, F, and they are dancing in different directions. As you can see, this goes on changing, and after some time, everybody is dancing in a single direction. How does this happen? Where is the democratic decision making? This is where honeybee wisdom comes into the picture. The decision of the honeybees is based on attaining a quorum, not necessarily a consensus. This means that a single stubborn bee cannot hold the group to ransom, endlessly delaying the result. As soon as there is a quorum of bees agreeing on a side, they will go there. They will not wait for the last bee to make up its mind. Bees whose initial sites fall out of favor retire from the competition and let others decide whether to persist advertising for their site or not. If you don't like my site, so be it. So I have gone to a place, I found a nice site, I come and advertise. But if you don't like it, fine, go elsewhere. This is how they are able to arrive at a consensus. Now, based on this, and Thomas Seeley is a remarkable scientist. Not only does he study honeybees, but he attends monthly meetings in the town hall of his city, and he observes how people in the town hall make decisions, and he compares these. In fact, he has written a chapter in his book called The 5 Habits of Effective Groups or Bees, of bees or of people. What are the 5 effective habits? 1. Compose the decision-making group of individuals with shared interest and mutual respect. Minimize the leader's influence on the group's thinking. Seek diverse solutions to the problem. Aggregate the group's knowledge through debate. Use quorum responses for cohesion, accuracy, and speed. So we can learn from even how to make decisions. Now I want to move on to even more difficult, even more controversial area and ask, can we learn? Now from computer science, agriculture, human affairs, I actually want to move to moral philosophy. Can we learn anything from ancient societies? Here I will turn to the Indian paper was Rhopaladium arginata, which I like to work with, and this is the one that is usually attacked by the bigger Vespa tropica, I was saying. This is what I and my students have been studying for a very long time. This is a remarkable social insect. First of all, it is very beautiful, as I'm sure you'll agree seeing this picture. It builds small nests, easy to study, small number of wasps, not thousands, not tens of thousands, 20, 30, 40, 50, maximum 100. So it is easy to study. Their nest is two-dimensional. So you can see everything, you can video everything. They are not shy. They do not cover their nest with a paper envelope. Everything is visible. You can see here there are adult wasps, there are larvae, there are pupae, and there are eggs. Everything is visible. All interactions can be studied. Besides that, I have a large number of passionate students who love these wasps as much as I do, and we work as a team. So our lab is a society. You can see I have also put my students in hexagonal cells. We like to consider ourselves a society, one society studying another society. Now it turns out that easily put spots of colored paint on individual wasps so that we can recognize every wasp as an individual. In fact, we have names for all of these wasps. And these names are in our computer file, and as we study these wasps, we keep entering data about these wasps in our computer. So we have basically dossiers on all of these wasps. For some of them, we have information about their lifetime period. Based on this, we can study them in many, many different ways. We can ask many different questions. I will just give you a few examples. For example, we found that even though there is only one queen in the colony, that queen is often replaced by one of the workers. So there is regular change of the queen. And because the wasps are marked, we can actually construct royal pedigrees. This is, for example, Queen 1. She was replaced by her daughter, who is Queen 2. Queen 2 was replaced by her sister, Queen 3. Queen 3 by another sister, Queen 4. But Queen 4 was not replaced by another sister, but was replaced by her niece. 5 was replaced by sister, and 7 was replaced by her cousin. In fact, these wasps live in complex families, and I would like to say that these wasps put to shame any Indian joint family. Because in a colony, you would have sisters, brothers, nieces and nephews, cousins' offspring, mother's cousins, offspring, and even mother's cousins' grandchildren, all living together in a colony where queens are replaced by their daughters, their sisters, their nieces, and their cousins. This is a remarkably complex family in which they live. And yet, as I will show you, peace and organization. How do they do that? We discovered very early in our studies that the queen itself is not an aggressive bully, as is true in some other species. In fact, the queen in this species is a non-aggressive, almost non-interactive, meek and docile sitter, mostly sitting in a place. That makes it even more surprising that they're able to maintain such good organization and peace. Now, we were interested in knowing how this happens. For example, we asked, if the queen is such a non-aggressive, quiet individual, why do the workers accept her as a queen? To answer that question, what we did was we experimentally removed the queen to find out what would happen. One of the workers, in fact, became the next queen, but before she became the next queen, she became extremely aggressive. In the presence of the queen, she was showing little aggression. In the absence of the queen, she showed much more aggression. And when we returned the queen back, she again dropped her aggression. We call her the potential queen. So removal of a docile queen makes one worker hyper-aggressive, and this is the potential queen, and she will then eventually become the queen. Now, we wanted to know who is this individual. If only one individual becomes the next queen, we try to understand. But it turns out that we cannot predict who is this individual. She does not seem to be unique, and yet only one individual becomes aggressive and the next queen, and nobody challenges. So there is a heir designate, even though we cannot identify her in the presence of the queen. The wasps seem to know who she is, and thus they minimize within group conflict, because they all know that if this queen dies, there will be who is going to be the next queen, and therefore I should not go out of turn. In fact, we have shown that there is not just one heir, but there are many heirs. However, there is conflict between colonies, even though there is no conflict within colonies. For example, there is inter-colony. In one experiment, we wanted to understand how the wasp will treat wasps from other colonies. So we brought the members of one colony and introduced them into the cage of another colony. Thus, we had resident wasps and alien wasps. Resident wasps were in their territory with their nest. Alien wasps were outside their nest but did not have a nest. We found to our surprise that young alien workers were admitted freely into the colony. But old alien workers were allowed to live, but only away from the nest. The alien queen was attacked and dismembered, torn to pieces. So you can see that these wasps have a very nuanced treatment even of outsiders. They are not blindly aggressive to all outsiders. They choose. If you are young, you can join. If you are old, but you are not a queen, you can stay far away. If you are a queen, we will kill you. So how do they make these decisions? How do they know these things? Those are the things that are of interest to us. So you can see that these insects, this species, show what we might call war and peace. The wasps have a great propensity to make war with outsiders and an equally great propensity to maintain peace with insiders. Now there is so much peace inside us because they work peacefully. The queen is not telling them what to do, but the workers work on their own. Even when the queen is not there, they continue to work. And if the queen dies, they already know who the next queen will be. In fact, they know the next 4 or 5 queens who are going to succeed, so that there is no fighting inside the colony. But if you expose them to foreign queens, foreign wasps, that's when aggression begins. So from an evolutionary point of view, war with outsiders is easy to understand, but war with outsiders is not of much use unless one can combine it with peace from inside us. And that is what the wasps do. I believe that it is this dual strategy, this ability to tread a fine balance between conflict and cooperation that accounts for the success of insect society. And that is why we call them superorganisms. In fact, insect societies are perhaps the most dominant force on the terrestrial planet. In some forests, 75% of the weight of all animal biomass is accounted for by ants, bees, and wasps. They have been extremely successful. And I believe that they have been successful because they are able to balance conflict and cooperation. They are not blindly cooperative to everybody, they are not blindly showing conflict to everybody. They are able to balance these things, and that is why I think they are so successful. Now, if we think about it, we humans are the same. In fact, the French philosopher Voltaire famously said, "It is lamentable that to be a good patriot, one must become the enemy of the rest of mankind." And that is what we see. Now, people often ask me, why do you study social wasps? I answer, for the same reason that anthropologists study humans. But I certainly do not think we should imitate animal societies blindly. I certainly do not think that we should commit the naturalistic fallacy. But I do think they can hold a mirror to us and offer us a means to reflect on our own society and learn more about ourselves. Consider how these wasps behave, consider how we behave, and it is only when you look at another society that you learn more about yourself. Think about your daily life. You visit your neighbor's house and you see how they have set up their drawing room, and you sometimes say, "Oh, that is a much better way of using space, maybe I should do the same." Or you see how they treat their children and say, "No, I will not treat my children like that, I will treat differently." So we learn ourselves when we visit other societies. So that is what I mean by they hold a mirror to us. Now, of course, our neighbors can hold a mirror to us, other human cultures can hold a mirror to us, primitive human tribes can hold a mirror to us. Why not other animal species? The planet is full of many interesting biological species if we have the wisdom not to destroy them unnecessarily for our benefit. I believe that we will be able to learn a great deal from these insect societies. I want to end by a quote by one of my favorite scientists, Edward O. Wilson, who is probably the most accomplished insect society scientist in the world. He passed away recently. He has studied all kinds of insects, but particularly ants. And he said, humanity is exalted not because we are so far above other living creatures, but because knowing them well elevates the very concept. He has passed away. Are we going to able to learn from the wisdom that he has proposed in this condition? Are we going to be able to learn from insects? First, are we going to let the insect society survive? We are destroying the planet in various ways. In fact, no other species is as creative as us in destroying the planet. If we destroy the planet in this way, will there be anything left for us to learn? Secondly, are we interested in understanding them? Watching an ant during your morning walk in the garden, you think is just fun. It is fun, but it can also be science. When I study the insects, people say, "Oh, this is basic research. Should we be spending money on this?" But it is basic research that translates into organization. Are we curious enough? And when you say learn from insect societies, we have to have a certain level of modesty and humility. We think we are the top of the creation. We know everything. What can we learn from these stupid insects? That attitude will not help. We must become modest, we must become careful, and we must feel that we can learn from anything. And that curiosity, that modesty is required. Finally, can we apply it meaningfully? It is possible to apply it wrongly. There are many examples where people have done the wrong things in society and justified saying, "Oh, even the monkeys do it, even the ants do it. There is dictatorship elsewhere, there is murder everywhere, why not here?" So we need to think about all of this. Can we preserve nature? Do we have the humility to learn from nature? Do we have the wisdom to learn from nature? Going by the past history of the human species, one can be pessimistic. The way we have destroyed the planet, the way we are arrogant, the way we do quite wrong things in human societies and justify it, there is reason to be pessimistic. But I want to be optimistic because I have great faith in the young people. And it is the young people who should be inspired to look at nature. Science can just be a hobby. Look at nature for fun. Look at nature for pleasure. And then wisdom will come and products will come. Money will come. Basic research will become applied research, provided we have the wisdom. So there are many, many nice things that the human societies can teach us. Can we learn? Are we capable of learning? This is what worries me. And this is what we have to think about. We have to find ways of preserving the planet, coexisting with nature, having the humility to learn and having the wisdom to learn correctly. I want to stop here so that I leave more time for any questions that people have.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You can stop sharing your screen now. Probably you can see us now as well.
Yes.
Sir, it was indeed a good presentation and good discussion. I would like to begin from where you stop, the stupid bees. We need to understand, sir, that the bees, we are learning from the bees, but it seems that at the same time these animals, these bees have also learned from the human society.
Yes.
So it seems. So, for example, I mean, is there any connection when even our civil society, when we see the distribution of areas, the distribution of participating portions, that where the civil services, those are often made hexagonal, so that they have little surface area, but covers the whole space.
Yes.
Particularly, this question came to my mind when you showed the slide of your co-workers.
Yes.
Yes, so that you have put everybody in hexagonal form. It's closer to a circular shape, but still fills up the whole place.
Yes. So this is one of the things I learned from the bees.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that I mean, are there evidences, empirical evidences to say that this has come from the society to the bees, or from the bees, or from the insect to the society?
Oh, very clear evidence that it has come from the bees to us. Bees have been building hexagonal cells at least for 60 million years.
Oh.
When we were not anywhere in the scene. In fact, there is great research on why they use hexagons, how they make hexagons, what is the advantage. There is a lot of research going on this. This is in fact one area in which people are learning from insect societies. But to answer your question in another way, I am an evolutionary biologist. I believe that there is nothing in biology that makes sense except when we look at it from an evolutionary point of view. Therefore, even if an insect learns something from me, it is learning from another species. Insects also learn from other insects. So we are just one of the many species. This planet holds millions of species. We are just one of them. And that is what we need to realize. We are nothing special. If there is anything special about us, it is that we are the only species that is capable of destroying the planet. No other species is capable of doing that. Otherwise, we are one of millions of species. Each species can learn from each other. So we should not put ourselves in one basket and all the millions species in another basket and say we are going to be friendly with you. No, we are just one of millions of species.
So, sir, yes, you have answered my next question. In this question itself, while I was trying to ask, somebody has asked this problem, that how old are the bees? So, you have already answered 60 million years ago.
Yes, so at least 60 million years.
At least 60. So, I mean, and next, one more question you have already answered, that there are interconnection between the different species. And one species has been learning from the another species.
Yes.
Sir, you talked about in your slide number 8. Can we come to slide number 8? Anyway, I can refer it. In your slide number 8, you mentioned about the king, and you talked about something about their reproduction processes.
Yes.
So in human, I mean, there is a question to me for you, sir. in human we know the sperm, typical sperm size is few microns.
Yes.
So what the typical size of sperm in this case?
It's very similar, maybe even smaller. But what the most interesting thing there is that these ants, bees, wasps, termites, not in termite, ants, bees, and wasps, when the queen mates, she mates with many males. She gathers the sperm from all of these males and she stores it in her body and she nurtures it and keeps this sperm viable for decades so that she can keep using it all the time. So, in fact, we are struggling to preserve sperm in a way that it is viable later. But 50 million years ago, they learned how to keep sperm in their body in a viable condition. Not only that, in the case of ants, bees, and wasps, a queen can lay an unfertilized egg, which will result in a son. But when she wants a daughter, she will actually use the sperm already stored in her body to make a diploid egg, and that will become a daughter. So they have perfect control over the sex of their offspring. They can produce males or females as they desire by allowing the sperm to flow or not to flow. There are so many things that they can do which we cannot do. And to say that we cannot learn from them is something which shows that we are not having humility.
Yes, so we are stupid in that sense. Sir, yes, so they learned IVF technology, they have the sperm banks, they have the egg banks, with them they have fertilized banks.
Yes.
They're far ahead, they're far ahead. Yes, I agree with this, sir. And this is a great understanding for us, sir. ये जो हेक्सागोनल ज्योमेट्री है पर्टिकुलर, ये सबसे पहले बीज या हनी बीज में देखा गया या इससे पहले कोई और सोसाइटी जैसे कोरल रीफ्स या किसी और सोसाइटी में भी देखा गया?
हाँ, we can see social behavior starting from bacteria.
Okay.
So being solitary, being social in a group are two ways of living. Sometimes the same species keeps moving between. In fact, now we are learning many things about social behavior by studying bacteria. So these things, what we must understand is all of these species do these things because of evolution, because of the evolutionary forces that promote. So there are some environments in which being solitary is better, then those individuals will be solitary. In other environments, being social is better. So evolution by natural selection has programmed all of these species to live in a way that is appropriate for their ecological conditions. The special thing about ants, bees, wasps, and termites is they have taken social life to the extreme, even more than any vertebrate. For example, in ants, the different workers who do different jobs, they are born differently. Their body structure is different, their body shape is different. So there is division of labor which is so deep. So if we study various species, there is so much we can learn, so much we can understand how things happen.
Sir, you talked about that evolution and the development of the practices. You talked about as we talk about that science, probably that world technology or the philosophy of world technology was came first to the human evolution, and then we developed science, and then science again technology. And so we often say that today's science is tomorrow's technology, and tomorrow's technology is day after tomorrow's science.
Yes, yes.
Similarly, I mean, can we have some time scale over which these bees or these wasps change their practices, or this is random?
Depends on the example. Now there are some things they will change very rapidly because the environment changes. There are some things they will change very slowly. So in biology we always say the devil is in the details. So if you take a particular example, then things can happen very rapidly. Things can change in one generation. Now you said in humans we are talking of evolution and technology. A broader way to look at this is there are two ways in which heritability happens. One is through genes, another is through culture. So some technology spreads culturally, but many of our traits spread through genes. Even in animals, there is both heredity based on genes, but there is also culture. There is cultural transmission of information in all kinds of animals. So they also learn from each other, learn from other species. The speed with which they learn depends on the need.
Sir, there are some tricky questions as well. But
Yes.
before that, just for the information to to our audience, see today's all the illustrations which has been given in Professor Gadagkar's session, either belonging to Professor Gadagkar himself or to his co-workers, and Professor Gadagkar has duly acknowledged all those contributions from all of his colleagues. So there are tricky questions. I hand it over to Tanvi to start some more conversation with you, sir, to continue with this
Yes.
conversation. Tanvi, please.
So, firstly, I just want to thank for the wonderful presentation. The information that you have given, I think most of the things were not known to me and to our viewers as well. So, this was new, fascinating and extremely interesting as well. I just want to know that you mentioned that bees attack and they sting the human being if they are trying to attack their hives. But what is the reason behind wasps biting humans? They don't have anything to preserve or protect. Why do they bite?
Oh, wasps also sting. But only thing is, when wasps sting, their sting doesn't, they do not lose their sting, so they can sting again and again. Whereas when a bee stings, it is not able, it dies after that. So they also have sting. And some of them can sting, some of them can bite, both. These are all methods they have developed to defend their nest, to defend themselves against predators. But there are other wasps, for example, solitary wasps, which use their sting in a very different way. Their sting is not meant to kill. Their sting has a neurotoxin. So, for example, solitary wasp will find another insect. It could be a caterpillar, a spider, or even a bee, and it will sting it with a neurotoxin, paralyze that individual so that it cannot move about and lay an egg on that. So that when its own larva hatches, it has ready-made food available to eat. So sting serves many different purposes, and many individuals have venoms, poisons, toxins they use in these various different ways.
Okay.
So now I ask stupid questions with this, sir.
I tell my students that there is no such thing in the world as a stupid question. Only answers can be stupid. So I have to be careful. You don't have to worry.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. See, friends, this is the seniority, sir. Sir, आपने तो इनके साथ इनके छत्तों में बहुत दफा हाथ डाला है. आपको कितना काटा?
Very good question. A friend of mine wrote me an email one day. He lives in the new world where there is no Rhopalidia. But he once visited the old world. I think he came to Philippines and sent me an email. Oh, today is such a wonderful day. I got my first sting from Rhopalidia. So we scientists actually take pleasure. But let me answer more seriously that if we work with these wasps, if we learn how to work with them, we will never get stung. In fact, I have got stung when I didn't know there was a wasp nearby. When there is a wasp, I know. In fact, we can learn. The wasp will learn to tolerate us. We will learn how to manage so that we don't disturb them. We don't breathe heavily, we don't wear perfume, we don't make vibrations. So we can quickly learn how to do this. So all my students learn how to do this and we rarely get stung. But I must also mention that a new student who doesn't know this usually gets stung in the beginning. So they come into me, sir, I got stung. And I say, that's very good news. You know why? A very small number of people are hypersensitive. And for them, one sting can take them to the hospital. I want to be sure my students are not like that. So if they come to me smilingly and say, I got stung, that means they are not hypersensitive. So now they can work with these. But we quickly learn how not to sting. We can learn how to do that.
Great, sir. There are many unknowns, as you said, and in the beginning, as you said, there are many unknowns. So
Yes.
before you go into it, then you find out.
I do want to emphasize one thing though. My goal today has, of course, been to tell you about insect societies, tell you what we can learn from them, how to learn, but my more important goal is to try and make people understand that there is so much wealth of nature. We should not destroy it. We should have the humility to learn from it, and we should have the wisdom to learn correctly. That is the more important message than the insect society, because this applies to anything. We can learn from plants, we can learn from bacteria, we can learn from so many things. But human species needs curiosity, humility, and wisdom to survive.
Yes, you are right, sir. See, all these organisms are the part of cycles, natural cycles in the nature on this planet and wherever they are. But these wasps quarrel between themselves.
Wasp what?
वो आपस में भी लड़ती है क्या? कभी हमने देखा नहीं.
Learning,
quarrel
fighting.
themselves. Do these wasps
Yeah.
quarrel within themselves?
Fighting, you mean?
Yes, sir.
So yes, that's what I'm saying. So there is conflict and there's cooperation, and they're able to balance it. It's
War
not
and
mindless
peace.
conflict.
Yes.
It's not mindless cooperation. They learn how to balance the conflict and cooperation, and that is why they are successful.
So it means that they have a sense of something learning in the society. Tanvi has a question about that. Sir.
Yes, absolutely. Sir,
Yes.
when we talk about humans, we have emotions, we have our relationships, but when we are talking about these insects, do we see any kind of emotions, maybe unity, loyalty, or even friendship in these
I can't
insects?
hear that properly. Can someone repeat that question?
Okay, sir. Like emotions, you said that war and peace. We are
Yes.
going back to your slide on war and peace.
Yes,
It
yes,
means that
yes.
these insects, these organisms have a feeling of emotions, etc.
Yeah. So people often ask me, do insects have emotions? Are they intelligent? Are they
Yes.
conscious?
Yes.
Now, unfortunately, all this depends on your definition. Most of the time, we have been defining this in such a way that it applies only to humans. But if we relax our definition, you'll be surprised how much of this we actually see in the natural world, how much of this we see in animals. Whether it is consciousness or intelligence or planning or emotion, we can see all of this provided we relax the definition and allow the insects to have this thing. So, for example, intelligence. If you define intelligence in one way, then it can be only humans by definition. But if you relax your definition, you will see that there are so many shades, grades of intelligence, sometimes much better than ours. So that's again where we need humility to understand how animals.
Sir, probably the last question.
Okay.
You talked about the importance of basic research.
Yes.
Yes, we understand that the most of the researches which have been done in life sciences in particular are
Yes.
empirical in nature.
Yes.
So, I mean, there are very lesser number of laws as per we understand in scientific terms in life sciences and biological sciences.
Yes.
So, these, in any society, in any
Yes.
insect society, in any creature, do we see any law being followed?
It depends again on what you mean by the word law. For example, I said ants follow two simple rules. Follow the pheromones of others, lay your pheromone whenever you go out. Now, if you want to call these laws, yes, they follow these laws. So it depends how you define these things.
यस सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. आपके साथ बात करके बड़ा मज़ा आया. अगर आप फिजिकली भी हम बहुत साथ साथ होते तो और भी अच्छा लगता. और बट वी रियली एंजॉयड. होप टू हैव यू सम टाइम लेटर इन आवर स्टूडियो हियर at NCERT. sir, you are always most welcome.
बिल्कुल इंतजार करूंगा उस मौके का मैं.
Sure. दोस्तों, to my viewers, today's session can also be seen in continuation with session number 43, when Dr. Debopam Das from IIT Kanpur came to this studio and delivered, it was October 28th, 2022. And he talked about biomimicry and innovation, though he talked about a fluid dynamics perspective, but that was again for making us to understand learning from societies, learning from birds, etc. So, sir, thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please stay with us for some time, sir.
Okay.
So let us
Yes.
try to wrap it up.
Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for being with us today and for presenting such a
pleasure.
wonderful presentation for all our viewers, and the entire team of CIET NCERT wishes you a very good health. May you stay
Thank
healthy
you very much.
and happy, and because you have a surgery recently, so all the very best. Stay happy
you
and
very
stay
much.
healthy. Thank you. Thank you to all the viewers as well for being with us today, and let me please announce the upcoming session that we have, and that would be the 81st session, and it's going to be on 26th of July. The title is
that friends, it is about the developing an earthquake resilient society. You might be wondered, friends, that often it happens that earthquake of a certain magnitude makes a huge impact or huge disaster at one place and not other place. This is because we have developed the earthquake resilient society. So next time the expert, the internationally well known expert, Professor Harsh Kumar Gupta, he will be with us in our studio. He is working with the CSIR, National Geophysical Research Institute, TAO, and he is very well known scientist. He has been the secretary of Department of Science and Technology, etc., many other positions. So he will be with us. So be with us on 26th of January 2024, right at 10 a.m. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Gagan Gupta, for bringing. Thank you so much, sir, both of you, for being with us today. It was a wonderful program and indeed one to remember for a long time. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the viewers as well. We'll be expecting your questions in the next episode as well. And in this particular program, we received your queries, and this was so fascinating. So with this, we are wrapping up today's program. But let me just repeat it once again, that if you have not watched our earlier sessions, then you can watch it on ncert.nic.in/webinar_series.php. So with this, we are wrapping up, and stay tuned to the eVidya channels. We have a lot more programs for all of you throughout the day, and you can send your queries through our YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much. Take great care of yourself. Have a wonderful day ahead. I'm Tanvi Khurana. I'll take a leave of you. Namaskar.